When Inazuma arrived in Genshin Impact, it was during version 2.0, which came after version 1.6 and the Midsummer Islands. Well, with the Vision Hunt Decree and the Sukaku Decree coming to an end, Inazuma's story is wrapping up, which means we can expect Sumeru to be coming soon. We're currently on version 2.7 and Heizo was a confirmed character who is most likely to be released for 2.8. Considering that Sumeru will be version 3.0 and we don't go into version 2.9.1.5.2, we can speculate that's only 1 or 2 patches away. Hey, what is going on guys? It's Johnny and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. In today's video, we'll be going over 5 tips and tricks that will help players prepare for Sumeru. Before we do jump into it guys, if you do like the video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. This will greatly help our channel to grow and help with the YouTube algorithm and recommend the video to other viewers. Now without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The first tip we have for players is to save up your Primogems. While this might be obvious, you'll be surprised how many players fall victim to pulling for new characters, especially waifus. This is probably the most important tip we have from the list because one of the key elements of a gacha game is to pull for our favorite characters and or new characters we find interesting. Each region throughout Teyvat represents an element depending on the Archon that's in charge. With Sumeru, it'll be introducing an entirely new element that'll become playable, which is Dendro. So far, the only signs of Dendro that we really encounter in the game are with Baiju, the owner of Boo Boo Pharmacy, who has the Dendro element, and the Dendro Hiltros, who burns us to a crisp. Needless to say, this will definitely change the metagame because with the new element comes more elemental reactions. While not all elements react with Dendro as of now, there is one that is known, so it'll be interesting to see how the rest react with Dendro. Therefore, saving up as many Primogems as possible should be a top priority so players will have a chance to get Dendro characters, and of course, the highly anticipated Dendro Archon. The second tip we have is to build up characters. Now when we say build up characters, we aren't talking about grinding endlessly for a chance at a perfect artifact. Nope, because those don't exist. What we're talking about is building up your character's levels, talents, weapons, and other necessities that are more guaranteed to benefit characters, at least to a usable level. When a new region is introduced, one thing you want to avoid doing is going back to older regions because there will be new characters, weapons, domains, and bosses. If your characters aren't built up, then you might find yourself returning to older content and missing out on newer content at the beginning. Having built up characters will enable you to have more options on what you want to do and not feel as restricted. Just don't go grinding for artifacts and waste up all your resin when characters and weapons aren't fully built, because you might not get anything in return. Content will also get harder as the story progresses, so best to be prepared. The third tip we have is to save up fragile resin. Fragile resin is one of the most important resources in the game because it serves as a storage for your resin, kind of like a bank whenever you need to withdraw money. With fragile resin, you can replenish your resin immediately whenever you want, which saves you a lot of time waiting. Similar to the previous tip, don't go burning fragile resin on artifacts. Artifacts are in some sense a bait because they are a continuous thing in Genshin, so using fragile resin won't really save you from the endless grind anyway. How I like to use fragile resin is on new characters that I've obtained because I want to enjoy endgame with my character as soon as possible. Fragile resin should be used when players want to quickly rush building characters because that will actually speed up the process so you don't have to wait days or even weeks. While you can argue that it will speed up your artifact grind as well, it might not because it's mostly going to be on RNG, which is why I don't advise using fragile resin on artifacts. Trust me, I tried it myself. The fourth tip we have is to stock up on prototypes. When Inazuma was released, we received a new set of craftable weapons. The same can be said about Mondstadt and Liyue as well. That means we can expect the same for Sumeru. While the current craftable weapons aren't the best in slot for many characters, they are a good option if you need quick access to a weapon, especially for F2Ps. And who knows, maybe these new sets could be very good. Prototypes are very hard to come by, and many players have even forfeit using Resin for older weekly bosses, which means the chances for getting prototypes will be lower since the main source of getting them is through weekly bosses. Now personally, I've still been doing all my weekly bosses just to stock up on prototypes in case future craftable weapons are needed, and there are some that are very good on certain characters. Because of its low drop rate, prototypes are pretty valuable, but are still held back by the lack of weapons you can craft with them. Nonetheless, don't just waste them unless you're trying to get a certain weapon or gear up a specific character, because you just might need them in the future. For the fifth and final tip, we have saving up Mora. Whether you're leveling talents, artifacts, weapons, or even characters' actual level, they all have one thing in common, and that is, they use Mora. Mora is a universal currency in your journey across Teyvat, and why it's important to stock up. As you reach higher levels for characters and weapons, the cost for upgrading increases drastically. Make sure to balance out your spendings and savings because you'll want to have a good amount to get by in Sumeru. Now, there are a couple methods of gaining Mora, and while we don't recommend using Resin on Mora ley lines, it's still a good source if you're completely broke. But before you do though, I highly recommend checking out our video on how to gain Mora without ley lines in the description box below. This video covers the best methods of gaining Mora so you don't have to consume Resin and can use them on other things. Surprisingly enough, farming for artifacts is actually a pretty decent source of Mora as well. Just make sure to follow our tips and tricks on artifact management, which will also be linked below, to maximize on artifact experience and Mora. And there we have it, guys. These are 5 tips and tricks to help prepare you for Sumeru. With this video, we're hoping to help players manage their resources because with the new region being released, it could be something that players overlook until the content actually arrives. With Sumeru just around the corner, we're very excited for the new region and everything that comes along with it. What are you guys most excited for with the arrival of Sumeru? For me, it's the exploration of a new region because Hoyoverse does a very good job with designing an open world area to explore. It'll also be exciting to see how Dendro will shape the meta as well, so that's definitely something to look out for. I'm curious to know what you guys think, so do tell in the comment section below. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to also turn that notification bell so you don't miss out on any newly released videos. I've been Johnny D, and until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one.